Inferno Deluxe. There is your designer from Red Mojo. Not much information on the back. We do have that information though. And this is, where is that other, nope, there we go. 14 and up, 1 to 4 players, 120 minutes. You'll see I'm doing it a little differently this time. I have 2 hands because there is a ton of stuff in this game. But let's look at all that stuff, and then I will kind of show you how to play. There is a lot going on in this game as well. Alright, we'll get this lid off. Look at that inside artwork. So we have a rule book. We have the parts of the rule book. So there's all the background, all the stuff about the game. There's your index. Here is all of your components. I will say this one shows the standees. With this being the deluxe, these are all miniatures. And I think that, and I do have the metal coins, as you will see. So there is your game setup. Then your how to play. And then your game boards. This is kind of a weird setup of a rule book. They kind of give you the how to play. And then here they kind of describe the different types of the boards. And then they get into the general concepts of the game. And then they get into the overview and how each phase is going to end up playing. And then they get into the different phases. So it's kind of like, here's a game overview. Here's kind of the game concepts. Then here's a little bit more of an overview. And then we'll get in depth. But it did actually end up working out well. It did teach me the game pretty good. I didn't really have many issues when we were playing or having to really double check on stuff. There's the end game. We then get into the variants for the multiplayer. Here's your solo, and then you can have challenges on that solo in addition to the solo, a journey into infamy. The Black Death, a descent to remember. Then here are the Guardians, your red Guardians, your black Guardians. I kind of would have preferred this earlier in the rulebook though, when they talk about Guardian movement. They're like, well, jump all the way to the back to read about the Guardians. So it's kind of a weird layout there. Then we have the iconography, the family cards, initial resources, then more of the credits. So here are your player's aids. So you have your turn summary. You then have your locations in Florence, your endgame final scoring, and then the fraud cards, instant effects, and endgame effects. So you have 4 of those. This is the Papal Bulls mini expansion, the different setup, and the new Guardians that come with that. Then let's go ahead and get out this board, and then we'll get into all that stuff. This is a really large board, so I'm not going to be able to get it all in on this camera right now. So this is the 3 to 4 side. You'll be able to tell by having these here. And that means there are more spaces in this in the chains. But I'm going to take you to the 1 to 2 side, seeing as that is what we play. So looking at this board, you have your sin tracks, endgame scoring, your points, all of that. Here are your different layers of Dante's Hell. And then this is where the locations are going to be getting put that you'll be going to and doing stuff. And then if you look up top, you'll see the 1 to 2 players as well. In your first game, they say you can still play with that no matter the player count on that side. So let's get these cards out of the way first, and then we'll get into everything else. So these are the graveyard cards, I believe they're called. These put out the souls at the beginning of the game. Then also, if you ever run out of souls in the graveyard, these are the cards that put out more souls. We then get into the family cards. Are these the? I believe these are the actual. Yeah, these are the actual family cards. There are apprentice cards that you can play with in your first game as well. These show you what you're going to be beginning the game with. If you're having levels in your tower, coin or your Drachmars, your Florins, fraud cards, workers, and then where people are starting on the different tracks. And then these are the apprentice cards. These are basically all the same thing, except the tracks are different. So there's those. Then we get into the fraud cards. So these you're going to see have an instant effect if you have this barrel, and an end of game effect if you have this barrel. And then you choose one of the two effects going on here. So a lot of them are kind of going up on tracks or possibly helping to mitigate the end game scoring by taking care of tracks. This gives you half a diploma. So there is all of that. We'll get into these last. These are the Guardians with miniatures and impossible tokens. So first up we have this tray. This houses the metal coins, which I will say this Drachma's one is a bit tight in it. But there's those. And then you have your florins on there. These are the guests you'll be bringing into your towers to help you accuse sinners. There is a set for each player. You have these little barrels. Let's see if I can get one out easily. So these are a little harder to get out. Oh, there you go. I can just smash them. So I'm just going to show you one up close, but they are in the 4 different colors, and again, a set for each player. These are your half diplomas, right there. Then these are your souls, one more technically, and then you do have these cream colored ones. So there are your different souls, and you can see a varying degree of quantity. So there's those. And that is what is in this tray. Then when you get down here, you have your player boards. They are dual layered. Your barrels are going to eventually go up there. This is where your workers go. You're going to be building up towers onto here. There's 4 of those. Underneath that, we have the Guardian cards. So I'm pretty sure that's probably the special, or no, I think that was King Minos. We played with that one. So you have your different Guardians, kind of where they start, what their abilities are, as such. Here are those locations that will be going in Florence. This is that Popple Bulls mini expansion. So these are different cards that will get being dealt to players that will give them in-game abilities that they can trigger. You have a Dante Meeple. These are in case you need souls and there are no more in the supply and you need to take them from the board. You put this in their place. You have your shortcut tokens. You have your other locations that you'll be putting out to be how workers go to. These go on the board. These take place of the Phlegethian cubes. Pretty sure I'm saying that wrong. So you have one in each of those colors. That'll be moving for endgame scoring. We have our Dante Mini right here. Then this is the gold and silver benefits you get from the moving on those center tracks. This is so you can have it where it's randomized and not always the same as on the board. You have your 4 different colors, like a grayish black, a white, a wineish color, and a green. And then you have all of your player pieces in here of that. You got your tower pieces to build up your tower. Right here you have your diplomas and your score tracker, and then these are your tokens for the wall of dis and other stuff you might need tracked. So that goes back there. And this one, I think I left a couple of worker or skull. So you have your skulls, which will move up on the sin track. You have your boat that moves when you need to take a loan from Charin. And then you have your nobles and your urchins. That will be your little workers going out. And those all just go nicely in there with that, and then that on top. So let's get into these. So we have the, looks like the Minotaur. So there's the Minotaur. There's his little, that might not be, no, I don't think that's the Minotaur. That's someone else. But then you have their little tokens that you might need for them. Next up, I believe this is the one with pits. I believe those pits will go on the board and affect endgame scoring. Next up, this is the Minotaur. There's the Minotaur, and then you'll notice this one actually has player colors because these are for the labyrinths for your players. So there's the Minotaur. Let's get that shoved back in. Next up. So there's the little chains. I believe this is the one where you put those around the meeples and then only you can move that meeple. So there's that one. As I said, a lot in this box. There's Cerberus with his bones. Cerberus, your bones are on the thing. And next up we have this blind guy. And again, you can tell when they are in your player colors that you're going to somehow put out something that relates just to you. And man, those feel pretty hefty. Those feel pretty nice. And then we're going to get into the two that I know well because these are the ones that we played with. And you can tell that because they're out of the bag. So you have King Minos, and when you move him on the in hell thing, you're going to be putting this on certain levels so you can get points when other people get points from those. That will make sense as I get the game set up and show you how to play. And then you have Medusa, who will be moving around petrifying souls on the board. There's the petrified souls. Alrighty, so that is what is inside. Let me go ahead and get this monstrosity set up, and I will show you how to play. I will give you a heads up, though, that even with me showing you how to play, you will want to read the rule book, because I'll do my best to cover everything. But with the amount of stuff going on in this game, I am sure to miss a rule or two. Alrighty, see you there for that. We are set up for a two-player game of Inferno with the deluxe components. As you can see, like I said, this is a massive spread. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to put it at the correct side of the board. It's up here in the corner that you can't see. Otherwise, you'll see there's like the 1 and 2 spots. There's on the other side, there's a 3 and 4 as I had shown you. Next, you are going to be shuffling up these locations, putting the square ones where the square is and putting the arched ones where the arches is. So that will be a random setup. Next, you're going to find the location with this symbol on here, and you are going to put a set of guests for each player onto that tile. You are then going to create a supply of the souls and the florins and drachmas off to the side. You're going to place Dante on the path step that matches the player count, so 1 player or 2 player. You are going to place the cubes on their designated locations. I have them laying down. Typically, you probably have them standing up for ease of sliding, but this way you can see where they are. After that, you have 2 options. You have these pre-printed rewards on there, or you can shuffle up these tiles and place them over it. They are the same rewards, but this way it adds some variability. I'm just going to set those off to the side for right now. You are going to pick 2 guardians, a red one and a black one. I am starting with the ones they suggest for your first game of Minos and the Medusa. You are then going to place their pieces where they belong. It is depicted on the card. Medusa wanted to be here, Minos wanted to be there. You will also grab any tokens that are needed. Medusa wants the petrified souls, and minus is going to give you a piece in your player color. Speaking of your player color, you are going to be grabbing all the components of your color. You are going to be creating a supply of your diplomas, your wall of disc markers, and your little skull tracker guys. You are going to be putting your boat right there. You're going to be putting your tracker on the 0 spot. You are going to be creating a supply of your nobles and your urchins. Then, depending on which cards you want to play with, you have the family cards or the apprentice cards. You are going to deal them out to each player, and then they are going to grab the stuff on them. So for the apprentice cards, you have the name, you have which 2 tracks you're going to put your skull marker on, how many tower levels you start with, which guest, which barrel, how many florins, how many drachmas, how many fraud cards, and how many nobles. These are all the same for the apprentice cards except for the color of the tracks. The family one is going to show basically the same information. If you start with anything over here, you're starting money, your fraud cards, you're starting workers. However, you will notice that this has a left and right arrow with this on here. What this means is that instead of you going up these tracks, the players to your left and right are going to be going up on those tracks instead. So had I had this card, my opponent would be starting on the ice blue and the green. We are going to go based off of this card. So I will then put one of my skulls on the gray silver one and one of mine on the green one. So they probably would have had something different, like say there. I would then put a tower, the next tower, on my board as such. I would grab the gray guest of mine, put it in the bottommost spot, and then I would grab the tan barrel and put it in that spot right there. I would then grab 3 nobles, placing them in my house ready to go. I would then also grab 2 fraud cards and my starting money of 3 and 3. You then are going to shuffle the play cards and put them off to the side. I'm going to have them on the graveyard so you can see them. You are then going to grab one of each soul depicted and place it in the graveyard spot over here to form the starting supply of souls. And then as you saw me grab from over here, this tile that depicts the barrels, you're going to put one of each barrel on there per player. And that is it for setup. A turn is played over 2 phases, the Hell phase and then the Florence phase. The Florence phase has 3 possible options, but we're going to start with the Hell phase. The Hell phase is mandatory. At no point can you skip it. During the Hell phase, what you are going to do is you are going to take a soul from either the graveyard, move them into Hell, or move a soul that is in Hell down, following the chains printed on the board. So at the beginning of the game, there is no soul in Hell, so you will have to move one into there. You'll notice this icon here. This means it is going to cost you 1 to move a soul. You can take your pick, and then you put them on any of the spots depicted out here. So we will say go there. The important thing with this placement is you'll notice a symbol here and a matching symbol up here. Wherever you place or move the soul to is setting up the area where you are going to be taking your action in the Florence phase. So by going here, when I do my action, it is going to have to happen in one of these 2 areas. Otherwise, I can spend 2 drachmas to take an action anywhere. As you're moving souls on the track, you're going to want to keep them standing until they reach their layer of Hell. They can never go past their layer no matter what. So had I then moved him here, you would lay him down. Then you'd look across here. This would give me 2 points. I would then score 2 points for reaching him to his layer of Hell. With Minos, when you move him, you'll be putting this on one of the layers. What happens is when I would have gone here and did this, had my opponent had theirs here, they would also score the 2 points. So it is a way of getting points when your opponent gets points. For the Florence phase, there are 3 options. Your first option is you can move a family member to take an action in Florence. That is going to consist of taking a family member that is on your board and placing them in one of the locations in Florence, remembering that wherever you put the soul is where you are going to have to take the action. For these actions, your middle ones have no requirement. They are in essence free. These side actions, you'll notice a cost in the upper left corner. That is what it requires to go there. So both of those require you to either go there for with an urchin for free, otherwise it costs you 1 florin. This location over here can only be gone to by an urchin, and this location costs you 1 florin. There is no way to bypass that as with those. Let's go ahead and start off with these free actions. This is the haystack. You go here, and that gets you an urchin. You'll just take an urchin from your supply, placing it out there. Your next location is the banquet. When you go there, you are simply going to grab the next tower and place it on your board. So when I go to the banquet, I already have the 1. I would just simply place the 2 on there. Next location, if you go to the bank, you are going to grab 2 florins plus a florin per guest in your tower. Right now I have the 1, so that means I would be getting 3 florins by going there. Finally, this location, the courtyard, will allow you to move 2 of your workers from your tower back to your home, and then you are able to rearrange your tower. I'll talk more about how they get into the tower when I talk about accusing, but just know that that is how you bring them back. Going to these outside locations, so this one here is simply you are going to take a barrel and put it at an open place in your tower. If you have no open place in your tower, you can't take it. This next one is similar. You are going to grab a guest of a color you don't have yet, placing them in your tower, and then getting coins based on the level you place them. So had I gone there and grabbed my yellow one and placed them here, I would get 2 florins. These ones over here have multiple parts. This first one here is you can turn 2 florins into 2 drachmas. You can then take a barrel from your tower, placing it into the matching location at the top of your board, gaining the points depicted above. I will go over these after I explain the sin track. After that, you can choose to play a fraud card by paying 2 drachmas. When you play a fraud card, if you have the designated barrel anywhere on your board, whether it be in the tower or placed above, you get to choose one of the actions. You are then going to slide it under your player board so that only the right side is revealing. That will be an endgame scoring condition if you have that barrel. As you play more fraud cards, you will just continue sliding them, keeping the end game revealed. When you play a fraud card, you can either play the 2 from your hand, or one of the 2 from your hand, or you can choose from the face-up display or top deck by paying 1 extra drachma. Your top location up here is similar. You can turn 3 florins into 3 drachmas. You then can place one of your discs on the wall of discs, which I haven't gotten into. Basically, when you have a soul down here, in order to move through this wall of discs, you need to be moving through an area that you have one of your markers. So I would be able to move them here. If I had the person here, I would not be able to move here because I do not have my marker. So that is what the whole wall of discs does. Or you can move one of the cubes to the right one. Finally, for 1 coin, you can activate a Guardian power. The Guardians all act differently, but basically you are going to move them to any empty spot in hell and then activate their ability. Medusa petrifies souls. Minos is when you move him, you can choose to take your marker and place it at the end of the track. Or alternatively, you can spend 2 coins to do a River Styx action. A River Styx action lets you discard souls from the graveyard to move up on the denoted tracks. If you discard 1, you can move up 1 spot on any of the silver. If you discard 2 that are matching, you can move up 1 on the gold. If you discard 3 that are matching, you can move up on 1 track on the silver and 1 track on the gold. So, besides putting a worker out into a location, the other thing you can do on your turn is something you have to do once all of your characters are out on the board is you can accuse a sinner. Again, you need to match the area where you have placed the soul. So if this was the soul I had placed in the stag area, I don't have anyone, so I'd have to pay the 2 drachmas to go ahead and take that action anywhere. So optimally, I would have been on the house. If at any point you don't have drachmas to do something, you need to take a loan. Especially if you need to move a soul in, because that is something that's mandatory. When you take a loan, you are going to take 2 drachmas and you're going to move your boat down a spot. These are going to be end game points until you cross here, in which case you will immediately lose 5 victory points. And then at the last spot, if you still have to take loans, every time you do, you're going to lose 5 victory points. But to accuse a sinner, first thing you're going to do is you are going to move the accusing family member to your tower. This is important because these outside locations require you to have the depicted guest in order to accuse a sinner. So for instance, for this tile here, I need to have this blue colored guest in my tower in order to accuse the sinner. And then not only do they need to be in my tower, but the spot across from them needs to be empty, because the accuser will go in that spot. So, to give a brief example, had I had the guest right there, and I accused in this ice blue, I would move him to that same level. Had that person been there, I would not be able to accuse because I'm not able to put him on the same level, so I would be out of luck. So again, when you accuse, first thing you do is you're going to take the accuser and put them in your family's tower. You are then going to go and grab the rest of your family members and bring them home. You are then going to add a soul matching the color of the location, in this instance purple. So this purple one would go into the graveyard. You are then going to move 1 space along the track. If you're not out there yet, you will put your skull out there. You will then gain the matching bonus. In this instance, I would do a guardian action and gain a point. This is a guardian action, get a drachma, 3 drachmas. You can put out 2 markers in the wall of this or get 2 points. A river 6 action and a point. This one is you can move one of the cubes to the right, and then you can move a cube to the right or left, so you could move the same cube twice if you wanted, or 1 and 1. This is you can play a fraud card, and then this is go up on any track, but you do not get the bonus. After that, you are going to move Dante along the stairway. If he reaches a spot with the diploma, you are going to look in that spot. Whoever is furthest on that spot will take one of their diploma markers and pop it at the end. This spot here, the person will then grab the cream-colored meeple, putting it in the graveyard, and this one will score a point when placed in this very first level. You also then will get a guardian action. Same thing here. This one lets you play a fraud card. This one awards the ice blue diploma 2 points, and that triggers the end of game. So once you have moved Dante and finished his action, that would be it for the accusing turn. The third thing you can do on your turn is, if you are unable to accuse anyone out in Florence, you instead do a family council. What happens is you lose 2 infamy points, then you either move a family member from a tower into Florence, or you move a guest or a barrel from your board back to the designated tile for you to possibly try and get on a future turn. Alright, here's a somewhat example of how an end game might start looking. Dante would be down here. And then maybe just picture the white players' pieces kind of mixed in here. But we are going to get back to the barrels. When you place a barrel in this one, you're going to get 1 point for every 2 spaces you have advanced on these tracks. So we are at 1, 5, 8, 10, 12, 14, 17. So that would move me 8 points. This is 2 points per diploma. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be 10. This is 1 point per skull I have out here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is 4 points or a half a diploma, which will be pertinent in endgame scoring, which we are going to get to now. So once Dante has reached that last area, that person gains 2 points, and then the other players take one final turn. No matter who the first player was, everyone just takes one final turn, except for the person who moved Dante onto the spot. Then, in reverse player order, people are going to be triggering their end game abilities on these cards. So they can choose either to get, in these instances, a point per spot they have moved on that track. So in this instance, this one give me 2. Or I can take 3 purple figures, placing them out here on the ring without getting any bonuses or points. This one here is moving 1 track, what am I, up here, and then 1 back 1. So everyone's going to be going around the table, triggering all those cards. You then are going to be adjusting the cubes based on the spots that remain in hell. So this purple one has a soul on every spot and a guardian, so it doesn't move at all. Green has 2 empty spots, so it's going to move over 1, 2 spots. Brown has 2, 1 and 2. Blue has 1. Yellow has 1. Red has 1. Gray has 1. And then ice blue has none. Had, say, this soul been here, that does still count as a spot filled, so green would have only moved over 1 in that instance. After you do that, everyone can turn in 2 of their half diplomas to put a diploma in one of the score tracks, because the only way for you to score one of these tracks is if you have a diploma in it. You then are going to score the diploma. You are going to times where you are at on the track. So in this instance, 3 by where this is 3. So I'd be getting 9 points for that track, and you'd be going top to bottom in addition to that. You are then going to get your negative points for repaying the loans. You're going to look at your reputation in Florence. You're going to get 4 points if you have the tallest tower, 4 points for the greatest number of guests, 3 points if you have the greatest number of florins, and 3 points if you have the greatest number of family members in your house. Putting it all on the track, you will be flipping over, and you have this token for 60 and 120 as you go around the board. And of course, high score wins. So that is the basics of Inferno Deluxe. As I said, there are some smaller rules you will definitely want to read the rulebook for. This was not a be-all, end-all teach of the game. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you'll go ahead and head down below and hit like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell. Maybe comment down below and let me know what is your favorite design on the meeples. So, until next time, try not to descend into hell.